Welcome to Midnight Delight, where nightmares come to play. Tonight, we're diving into the heart of the wilderness with some scary camping stories. These tales will make you think twice before venturing into the dark woods alone. So gather around the campfire, hold your loved ones close, and prepare for a journey into the unknown. Let the terror begin. We were out in the woods camping with the family. It was one of those perfect summer evenings. We found this spot near a serene lake, set up our tent, and had a great time roasting marshmallows over the fire. The kids were laughing and we were all sharing stories under the stars. It felt like the perfect getaway. As the night went on, the wind started to pick up. At first it was just a soft whistle through the trees, but it gradually grew louder. Soon it sounded like someone was screaming in the distance. We tried to brush it off, thinking it was just the wind playing tricks, but it was hard to ignore. The sound was unnerving. Then we heard footsteps crunching leaves outside our tent. It was so clear, like someone was walking right by our campsite. I peeked out, expecting to see an animal or another camper, but there was nothing. The footsteps circled our tent, and I could hear them moving closer and then farther away. My heart was pounding, but I didn't want to scare the kids, so I kept quiet. The footsteps continued all night. We barely slept, just laying there, listening to the sound of someone or something walking around our campsite. The next morning, we packed up as quickly as we could and left. I've never been back to that spot, and I don't plan to. Whatever was out there, I don't want to meet again. We had this favorite camping spot deep in the forest, far away from civilization. It was our little secret haven. One night, while we were sitting around the campfire, I saw a shadow dart between the trees. At first, I thought it was just an animal, maybe a deer or a raccoon, but then I noticed it had a human shape. I tried to keep my eye on it, but it moved so quickly and quietly it was hard to follow. No one else seemed to notice, so I didn't say anything, thinking maybe I was just imagining things. Later, when we were all in the tent, I heard whispers. They were faint, almost like the wind was carrying voices to us. I woke up my husband whispering that I thought someone was outside. He checked, but saw nothing. The whispers stopped as soon as he looked out. We tried to go back to sleep, but I was on edge, listening for any sound. The next morning, we found strange footprints around our campsite, like someone had been walking around watching us. They weren't animal tracks, they were human. We decided to cut our trip short and leave. We never figured out who or what was out there that night. All I know is, I never felt so uneasy in the woods before. We decided to rent a cabin for our camping trip, thinking it would be a nice change from sleeping in tents. The cabin was old and a bit run down, but it had a certain charm to it. It felt like stepping back in time. The first night, after we settled in, we heard creaking footsteps on the porch. It sounded like someone was walking back and forth. I opened the door, expecting to see a neighbor or maybe a stray animal, but there was no one there. The footsteps stopped as soon as I opened the door. That night, as we tried to sleep, we heard banging on the walls and voices murmuring. The kids were scared, and honestly, so were we. It felt like the cabin was alive, filled with the restless energy of someone or something that didn't want us there. The next morning, we talked to the local ranger. He told us the cabin had been abandoned for years because the previous owner had vanished without a trace. There were rumors of hauntings, but we didn't believe in that sort of thing until we experienced it ourselves. We packed up and left that afternoon. The cabin might have had a charm, but whatever was inside it wasn't something we wanted to stick around to find out more about. This day, I get chills thinking about those footsteps and the banging on the walls. One summer, we camped near a small clearing in the forest. It was a beautiful spot, perfect for a family getaway. On the second night, as we sat around the campfire, we saw a strange light in the distance. It was moving between the trees, almost like it was floating. It was bright and moved too smoothly to be someone with a flashlight. We watched it for hours, trying to figure out what it was. It never came closer, just hovered in the distance, moving back and forth. We tried to convince ourselves it was just a trick of the light, or maybe some kids playing with flashlights, but deep down it didn't feel right. The next night, the light returned. This time, it was closer. We could hear a low hum that seemed to come from the light itself. The air felt colder, and there was a strange, electric feeling. We were all on edge, unable to explain what we were seeing. We packed up and left in the middle of the night, too freaked out to stay another second. Whatever that light was, it didn't feel natural. We never went back to that spot, and we still wonder what it could have been. We were on a camping trip, just me and my cousin, deep in the mountains. It was supposed to be a peaceful retreat away from everything. One evening, we went for a walk, exploring the area around our campsite. Everything seemed normal and we were having a good time. But when we got back to our campsite, hours had passed and it was completely dark. It didn't make any sense. It felt like we had only been gone for a short while. We had no memory of what happened during that time. Our watches had stopped at the same moment and we both had a strange mark on our arms, like a small puncture wound. We couldn't explain it. We tried to piece together what had happened, but there was just blank space in our memories. We packed up and left the next morning, shaken by the experience. To this day, we have no idea what happened during those missing hours. It's a mystery that still haunts us, and we've never returned to that place again. Thank you for joining me on this eerie adventure. If you enjoyed these chilling camping tales, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more spine-tingling stories. Share your thoughts and any scary experiences you've had in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. And remember, the darkness is never far away, especially here at Midnight Delight. Until next time, sleep tight and beware of the things that go bump in the night.